Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at if you have your Black Moon Lilith in the third house. The third house is the house of communicating, the way that you think, and the way that you learn. And with Black Moon Lilith, there can be difficulties in these areas. There can be rebellion in these areas. And this is also the area of earlier in childhood, as you grew up, and the environment around you in the school, around family members like aunts, uncles, cousins, brothers, and sisters in particular. Especially, I would say brothers and sisters, because those are the closest relatives to you besides your parents. And so there can be issues with those people as well. Now, I am deriving my information from a website called advancedastrology.com, so shout out to them. But one of the things that they mentioned is having conflict with authority figures with this placement. And my understanding is that the 10th house is the house of authority figures. So, what I believe they are kind of inferring, or maybe I should say I'm inferring and they're implying, is that because the third house can be your school environment, if you're rebellious in that environment, then you may not respect those teachers and other authority figures in that particular environment. But in terms of communication, this can be a situation where the person has some kind of issues there. They mention speech difficulties, being mute, but then they almost imply that the person may deliberately that I'm trying to look because there was so much here that they might just not, that they might choose not to talk, or they may be overly talkative. So Black Moon Lilith has been compared to Pluto in influence, and with Pluto, I often think of extremes. So yes, I could see both of those as being a possibility. But like Pluto, having Lilith in this house can give you great psychological insight into others, because this is the house of the mentality. So your mind is naturally able to perceive other people's, the way their minds tick, or the way that they, what makes them tick, very easily. This ability can be used in a good way, but obviously, like everything else, if you are seeking to manipulate, it can be very tempting to do so, because you know how to particularly, phrase things to somebody, or present it in a certain way that is going to have the greatest effect for whatever it is that you want. So you have to be careful about that, because that cunning, as they describe here, can be used as a weapon, and that's not going to ultimately serve your highest good. This site also mentions the poker face as a possibility in terms of not giving away what you're thinking or feeling by having a very neutral facial expression. And that can, maybe if you're playing poker, that would be good. But being able to express oneself in multiple ways is actually a blessing, because communication isn't just verbal. And when you communicate in any way, shape, or form, what you're really doing with other people is you're getting closer to them, you're sharing intimacy. And obviously, we have to pick and choose who we do this at the deepest level. But when people do not do it at all, or just are very short with people when they're communicating, they can't build any kind of connection with them. And so it can be very hard to make friends, to um, even like in a more superficial connection, if a person doesn't convey themselves in a way that grabs that other person, they're not going to be receptive to it. So let's say you're working in a field like being a salesperson, and you don't have those chops, that can work against you. So, um, like convincing somebody, for instance, in that environment. But even as a teacher, we need communication skills in many areas of life. And this is, and communication transcends just verbalizing things. Because of that Pluto like interest in what lies beneath the surface and the taboos in society, people with Lilith in the third house can actually be fascinated by things that others consider taboo, like taboo subjects, and some of those will involve trauma and things that are, very much the shadow kinds of emotions that they evoke, secretive kinds of things. Maybe you're kind of secretive yourself. Also, the third house is the community. So now I understand why this site mentions black sheep, feeling like a black sheep in the community, because I think that, Lilith here can set you apart from others. They also mention anxiety, and we have to remember that the third house represents your mentality. So, because of the nature of this placement, there is a lot of like heavy kinds of subject matters that you may be thinking about. And I really believe that that is behind all anxiety, that the mind is a trigger to the emotions. So your thoughts trigger the kind of emotions that you experience. Well, it stands to reason that this can help you in the sense that if you want to cure this, you want to heal yourself from this, you're going to seek out methods that can do that for yourself. And the thing that jumps out at me is meditation, because when you meditate, you train yourself not to be at the mercy of your thoughts. And because this house is connected to that, you can gain self-mastery over your emotions if you choose to do so. You have to speak your truth in life. And this means being outspoken, but I would say in all cases not to be, strident about it, but to be very straightforward. But also to admit things to yourself. Communication is outward, but it's also inward. And a person can deceive others through lies to them, but they can also deceive themselves and tell themselves things that are not true. So it's important to be honest in both directions. The third house can be about travel, but this is going to be short distances because the third house is your local area. So be mindful of when you are traveling. And they mention here, drive carefully. But remember, too, that driving is not just in a car, it's with bicycles. I don't have this placement, but I'm a cyclist. And I see some cyclists who are very foolhardy in how they ride a bike. They dart into traffic and things like that. Don't do those kinds of things. You might think that you're rebelling against the rules of the road. Well, they exist for a reason, and that's one of the times when I think it's really great to conform to something. Going back to family matters, yeah, you could have conflicts with some of the people, like your siblings, your aunts, uncles, or cousins. With siblings in particular, I think of Saturn in this house as well, or Pluto, something like that. And I feel like sometimes these things are caused because the parents may be narcissists, at least one of the parents, and are favoring one or more of the children, and therefore they are setting up that sibling rivalry. Because I don't believe that children, by and large, naturally compete against each other unless it's the parent or parents who are treating them in a way that would make them do that. So realize that if you have a resentment against a sibling who you feel is getting preferential treatment or who got it when you were younger, and you have been treating that sibling badly as a result, you have bought into the narcissistic parents' way of keeping the two of you from being a unified front. And you're really blaming the wrong party. That child is a victim too. That sibling is a victim because they were not treated in a genuine way. Even if they were set up as the hero of the family, they still were being manipulated. So that's a way to heal from that situation, is to stop going along with the parents' manipulation to try to get you to hate that sibling, to fight with that sibling. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.